ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies and citizens, this joy to the world, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies and citizens, this joy to the world. I bring a message of the truth amidst a world full of lies. I graduated from learning lies to see the truth. Indoctrinated to be too blind to see the proof. I once was lost, but now I'm found, so I shine light. And everywhere I go is darkness, so I shine bright.
This is the only show you know with Sean Griffin and Wes Blaze Jones, where we go head to head and toe to toe with all the lies that we've been shown about this place that we call home. Welcome back to another episode of Uncommon Ground. This is episode 14, and I am co-host one of two. They call me Wes Blaze, and I am happy to be here, happy to be joined as well by my co-host, my friend, Sean. How are you tonight, brother?
I'm good, Wes Blaze. Thanks for having me again. And I guess the question is it rocket science?
That's what we're going to look at tonight, right? You know, that's a good old phrase. Oh, it's not rocket science, right? It's just a little catchy hook here for the title, but nonetheless, we are going to be covering some real rocket science. But you know, there's definitely a catch to everything they're saying here from these guys launching these rockets.
Yeah. It's can you hear me? Sorry, I think there's a delay.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, good.
Sounds good. Looks good.
Yeah.
I just want to say shout out to everybody in the chat. If you're having a good time, happy to be here like we are. Make some noise in the chat. Shout out to James Apple, Brad Moody. What's going on, brother? Jeremiah 1516. Colin Crockett is back. Donna Porter. Howdy. James Apple. Mr. Anderson. Steven Anderson. And then we got Commando 777, the line within us. Shout out Miss Wildly Unpopular. Callie J. Thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah, we got seems to be an excited, faithful following for this show. It's such encouraging because, I mean, we didn't know how people respond to this topic. Not only are we talking about some controversial pertaining to the creation and what we can observe and test, but we're also talking about it from a biblical perspective. And a lot of people have never really heard the biblical perspective of what the Bible describes in full detail, right? They hear these buzzwords, right? They hear like circle of the earth, they hear pillars of heaven, pillars of the earth, they hear the word firmament even, but a lot of people don't even know what that means. So that's why we started doing this firmament project. And it's a part of our Patreon. We want to give a big shout out to everyone that is on our Patreon already helping us complete this project. But if you're interested as well, this is actually something that we've been working on. It's a 3D model that you're seeing on screen, but we're actually going to build a real working model of this firmament that we see the Bible describing.
That's right. And I'm more excited than anything for this because I've never seen it done like this, right? Flood it, drain it, give it a kingdom. That's the three functions we want to make it happen. We want to give it functionality and make it be able to contain waters and represent a lot of the biblical account of this creation model and how things have happened over the years. But we're excited to be able to present that. Nonetheless, Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say that talking about the descriptions for some people that have they're very visual. The descriptions alone don't do it, but we're trying to not just give the descriptions of what the Bible describes, but put them in a working model to show you those descriptions in action. I've never seen anything like that, so hopefully people will be blessed by it because we hope to address like the two major types of ways that people learn. You know, people learn through technical details, which all those descriptions are very technical, but then other people need to learn through contextual details, which is how those moving parts actually work in the story of the Bible. So that's why we're excited to do this firmament project, and you guys can help us out by visiting our Patreon.
Absolutely. Check that out. We'd love the support, and it would go to a good cause because this is going to help a lot of people to be able to really visualize and understand these things better. And after all, we're talking about the setting that the entire story of the Bible takes place in, right? The entire Bible story is set in a house that God built for us with multiple roofs, multiple layers, and a basement. And we are there in that ground floor above the basement. And if this is your first time checking out the show, we'd lovingly encourage you to go back through some of the episodes we've put forth so far. We've had a great time, had a lot of fun explaining and showing a lot of the things that are true about God's creation, and going through some of the things that have been said that are lies about God's creation, and how we can interact with it. And so this is going to be another one of those episodes tonight. We're going to go through some of these space agencies and how they're operating and what they're doing to deceive people, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's a power pack night, actually. But I think we wanted to just give a special thank you to some really encouraging comments that we got. These are people that have been watching the show. So
yeah, you take this one first.
Yeah, this one's from Angela Dietrich. I think I'm saying that right. And she says, I have to say, you brothers of Messiah are so awesome. I do appreciate all you do. As I strive for a living, I'm always in my truck making deliveries. I have the blessing of being able to listen to you on this channel and the other ones. What a blessing it is to me. I've learned so much over the years, and y'all is good to provide so many awesome teachings and awareness of this word. Thank you for all such a great video today. May y'all bless and keep you safe in this fallen world. We need Yeshua, our hope, our strength in him, so desperately needed.
Amen. Verily, verily. Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Miss Angela. That's very well said, and we appreciate you. Yeah. Is this a Mr. DeMuro? Yeah, I had a conversation with this guy. He's out in South America doing some ministry work, I believe he said. But DeMuro says, have got to say, bro, really love your content, especially Uncommon Ground and your music, man. Keep up the good work for the Most High. I've hoped so long to speak with you about your work. And he says, because I used to be a poet and have become quite the songwriter since being encouraged by your unapologetic manner of shedding light by exposing the darkness. DeMuro, that really touched my heart, brother. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you kindly, and I hope God blesses all that you're doing out there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really encouraging. It's funny. We actually have the prodigal son is one of our regular viewers, and he's saying, I love watching live, but I might have to catch up later, having lots of interference tonight. Shalom, y'all. Brother, we are too. That's why we started late. We're having technical difficulties on both ends. First mine cut out, and then Wes is cut out. Guys, I was telling Wes that I pay for the most internet possible in my region. We're talking a ridiculous amount of upload speed and download speed. And I've got Ethernet. We've got everything you can need to make sure you can ensure a broadcast. And we never have issues until we start this show. I do meetings all the day long with Lighthouse and with other projects, and we never have an issue until we want to start this broadcast. So figure out what you like. But yeah, that's what happens.
It is. Yep. Got to be something crazy going on with the prince of the power of the airwaves. I'd have to imagine, but you never know. Nonetheless, we pray protection in Yeshua's name, and we just pray that we are able to bless you guys with entertaining and edifying content tonight. So thank y'all for being here again. I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Yeshua's Garden, if I could. And he has a project that he's got going. Did my background change? There it is. So if y'all check out Trivia Stacks, you can go to the Apple Store, the Apple Play Store, or Google Play. And my good friend Kerry is involved in this project. He's a partner. And this is an app you can download for free. And apparently it pays out cash. It's when it says not fake coins, they're not talking about Bitcoin or Ethereal or any of these. But it just that you're not getting a pretend coin for the game to then go and cash out somewhere. You're actually going to get paid if y'all do these trivia questions and play the game. And I've tried it out. It's all clear with me. And this is a good friend of mine. And I'd love it if y'all would look into it as well.
Nice. You
can consider him a sponsor of the show because he's actually contributed recently to help us to get to the Ohio conference.
It's awesome. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna be at Take on the World, guys.
Yeah.
That's just like on the 22nd, the 20th to the 22nd of next month, right? So we're less like 3.5 weeks away. Wes Blaze and I are going to be presenting twice. Is that right? I mean, twice as Uncommon Ground, or once as Uncommon Ground, once as Wes Blaze performing. Is that right?
And then you're doing a separate, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then I'm going to be doing like a separate tour apologetics presentation. So big shout out to Chris Bailey for Take on the World and the conference that he's doing and all the. It's going to be a fun event. So we'll have to figure out how to film it so that we can have some extra footage for you guys.
Yeah. So I want to like contract anybody right now if you'd like to help us out and donate some of your time and battery life while you're at the conference, because I already know quite a few people have already said that they're going to be joining us up there. Can't wait to meet you guys. Excited to get to hang out with you. And I would just say that anybody that wants to film any of us or any of our interactions that you'd like, I'd love it if you would save that and then submit it to us so that I can maybe edit a project up so we can have some good footage from the conference. That'll be cool.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right, what else, brother? Did we cover everything?
A couple comments there. Yeah. Went over our
Sweet.
sponsors, showed the Firmament project. One more time, check out our Patreon. There's also a PayPal option if you want to do a one-time contribution.
Yeah, if you guys love what we're doing, want to see us get better, if you like, we love the fact that people are doing actual activism to explain the biblical cosmology, and that's what we would like to be able to get to do more and more. It just takes a lot of our week and a lot of our time to do that kind of stuff. So that's where, if you do love the show, you want to see us get bigger and better and reach more people, that's, links are in the video description below. We love you and appreciate you. But you said the firmament, and that's kind of interesting because that has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about tonight. I wore my firmamentalist shirt because literally, I mean, the Father, the Creator, the Almighty, he describes what he made. 7 layers of firmament. We live under the bottom layer, and it's an arched substance. Now, we went over this in great detail, not just in the first episode, but in other episodes. But this actually has everything to do with our topic tonight about all of these highly publicized rocket launches for 40, 50 years now. We've had all this excitement from different countries, and specifically the United States as well, through NASA, about them trying to launch people in a rocket up into outer space. So is that even possible? 1 Enoch 15, 1-5. Let's see what the Creator thinks about mankind and about whether or not he should be able to be above in the heavens of the air above, which that's the world would call that outer space. Like you saw the model, 7 layers of firmament. There is no room in this creation model for vastness of outer space. So Westblaze, does the Creator tell us what is actually up there and who's up there?
He does. Yeah, absolutely.
He does,
and he makes a clear distinction. Yes, sir.
He does. So I got here on screen, 1 Enoch 15, 1-5. We're actually going to read 1-10 real quick. And he says, he answered to me and he said, and I heard his voice, fear not, Enoch, you righteous man and scribe of righteousness. Approach here and hear my voice. And go, say to the watchers of heaven who have sent to you to intercede for them, that tell the watchers of heaven, you should intercede for men and not men for you. Wherefore have you left the high, holy, and eternal heaven and lain with women and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men and taken to yourselves wives and done like the children of earth? So this is saying that the angels who lived above came down to the earth, which was, they were sent originally, but once they were down here, they took women and started transgressing their commandment. What the reason why they're down here. So
and when it says intercede for them, isn't that priestly language? It seems as if their original purpose was to minister to men.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We see that all throughout Scripture, right? They show up in a priestly capacity, and this is a part of priesthood's job, is to intercede for people. But here, in this weird twist of events in the book of Enoch, the rebellious angels, that they got this reprimand by the Creator, and then they ask Enoch, okay, will you go back and talk to the good angels that communicate to the Father, that tell them, ask him for forgiveness for us? So like basically the bad angels, they don't even have the courage to go back to the good angels themselves and ask for their own intercession of forgiveness. They ask Enoch to go do it. So, and by the way, according to the book of Jubilees, this is all happening in the Garden of Eden area. So it's fascinating though, because the Creator is saying you came down from the whole the high, holy, and eternal heaven, which is that word firmament. You came down from there onto the earth. So there's a directional implication in this story. These are not terms without directions. This is up, down, left, right directions. He says in verse 4, you were holy, you were spiritual, living the eternal life, and you defiled yourselves with the blood of women, and have begotten children with the blood of flesh. And as the children of men, you've lusted after flesh and blood, as those who also die and perish. Therefore I've given them wives also, that they might impregnate them and beget children by them, that thus nothing might be wanting to them on the earth. Talking about giving mankind wives.
Right.
Yeah. Verse 6 says, but you formerly were spiritual, living the eternal life and immortal for all the generations of the world. And therefore I have not appointed wives for you. And as for the spiritual ones of the heaven, in heaven is their dwelling. So that means in the firmament layers above, that's where they're supposed to live. That's their dwelling. Verse 8 says, now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh, they should be called evil spirits upon the earth. And on the earth should be their dwelling. Evil spirits are proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men. And from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be called evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. That means they're going to live there. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, on earth shall be their dwelling. Westblaze, to me, it sounds like there's a clear distinction between top and bottom, above and below, right? Heaven above, earth below.
There is 100%, yes, and it's basically saying this is where the spiritual beings should live and what was made for them to live in, and then this is where mankind and earthly beings were made to live, and this is where they stay. We're going to read here in a second that he doesn't really allow for things to happen otherwise, right?
That's right. That's right. In fact, there's a moment in Scripture where man tries to get around this rule of what was just proclaimed in 1 Enoch 15. Do you want to take this one?
I'd be glad to, yes, sir. So Genesis 11, verses 1 through 5 says, "Now the whole world had one language and a common form of speech. And as people journeyed eastward, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, 'Come, let us make brick and bake them thoroughly.' And so they use brick instead of stone and tar instead of mortar. 'Come,' they said, 'let us build for ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens,'" the firmament, right? "And then that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the earth. Then the Lord came down into the city to see the city and the tower that the sons of men were building." And he goes on to say, "And the Lord said, if they have begun to do this as one people, speaking the same language, then nothing they devise will be beyond them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so that they will not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them from there over the face of all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it is called Babel, for there the Lord confused the language of the whole world, and from that place the Lord scattered them over the face of all the earth.
Not only do anthropologists not know why suddenly there's a wide mix of languages that exploded approximately 4,000 years ago amongst human settlements, but they can't explain it through evolution either, through the formation of the speech patterns in the brain and the tongue. So I think it's fascinating. But this is the only faith on Earth that actually explains the multiple languages of mankind on Earth.
Exactly.
So yeah, it really is. Wes, here in verse 7, Yahweh is saying, "Let us go down and confuse their language." Do you think should I take that literal, or should it read, "Let us go to their galaxy and their solar system"?
No, he's saying down. So this means he's coming from a place of up higher, down to the earth. And over again, you never see anybody say, "Let me go to the left from my place in heavens to get to the earth," or to the right or up. They're always coming from up, down to the plane of the earth.
Guys, up, down, left, right. This is what we were designed in inside an enclosure. And also, in the earlier verse that you read here in verse 4, they wanted to build a city and a tower that reaches to the plural heavens, because they all knew that there was multiple layers of firmament above them back in the day. Noah would have told them. So I think it's fascinating. We also have here in Amos 9, 2 through 6, it says, "Though they dig to Sheol, from there my hand will take them. And though they climb up to heaven," that's the firmament. It's a literal physical structure that's in the shape of an arched surface. "From there I will pull them down. Though they hide themselves atop Mount Carmel, from there I will track them and seize them. And though they hide from me at the bottom of the sea, there I will command the serpent to bite them. Though they are driven by their enemies into captivity, there I will command the sword to slay them. I will fix my eyes upon them for harm and not for good. The Lord God of hosts, who touches the earth and it melts, and all its dwellers mourn, all the land rises like the Nile, and then sinks like the river of Egypt. He builds his upper chambers in the heavens," plural, "and founds his vault upon the earth." What's a vault? That's a
domed structure.
That's right. Yeah. He summoned the waters of the sea and pours them over the face of the earth. The Lord, that's also Yahweh, is his name.
That's what it says. That's right. So, but that first verse there, verse 2, "Though they dig down to Sheol," which is an episode that will be coming up that I'm super excited about. So look forward to that. We'll be talking about that place. And then he says, from there, if they dig down there, my hand will take them. From there, my hand will take them. And though they climb up to heaven, from there, I will pull them down. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of people trying to climb up to heaven is either the Tower of Babel situation or modern space agencies and their rockets.
That's right. We also see a unique thing that I'm going to cover in my Investigating Babylon series. I'm going to cover Revelation 12, 7 through 10 about Satan and his angels fighting Michael and his angels. And then there's no place found for them in the heavens. So I'm going to discuss that in great detail and reference it back to Isaiah and some other places.
And that's you said Investigating Babylon?
Yeah, that's in my Investigating Babylon series. It's
definitely. Y'all go check that out on Kingdom Cast, his backup channel, Kingdom Cast. And that Investigating Babylon series will blow your mind, guys. Definitely look into that. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So no, you're right. I mean, but that's the idea. Is there's below is Sheol and above is the heavens, right? So here's also. Do you want this one's from Sirach?
Sure. Yeah. Also known as Ecclesiasticus or Ben Sirah in some versions of the Bible. So wisdom sings her own praises among her people, or among her own people. She proclaims her glory. In the assembly of the Most High, she opens her mouth. In the presence of his host, she tells of her glory. From the mouth of the Most High, I came forth and covered the earth like a mist. In the heights of heaven, I dwelt, and my throne was in a pillar of cloud. The vault of heaven I compassed alone and walked through the deep abyss. Now, Sean, this is wisdom being personified in the female sense, right? I've seen it said, heard it said that the translators might not have known what they were looking at here, and they used the wrong pronoun. What do you think? How do you take this? Is this a female personified wisdom, or could this be talking about Yeshua?
No, it's even in Proverbs chapter 8, it personifies wisdom in a female pronoun.
It does. You're right.
Yeah. So there's extra confirmation from other scriptures to the same effect.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me know.
And then John 3:12-13, we also have the scriptures tell us, this is Yeshua himself. He says, if I've told you about earthly things and you do not believe, how will you believe if I tell you about heavenly things? Guys, how will you believe if I tell you about things going on in the firmament above? Like, that's literally what he's saying. Every time you see the word heaven in scripture, that was the word given to the concept of the firmament.
It was. I meant to go back to that a second ago because we've related heaven to the firmament several times. In case you've missed a couple of our episodes, Genesis 1:8, after God created the firmament above our heads on the second day, he calls that heaven after already having created heavens plural on the first day in Genesis 1:1. So that's why we say the firmament is heaven. So did God.
It is heaven. Yeah. So, I mean, those are basic scriptures, guys, that they give us a general understanding of what the Father described. And in that description, he's consistent. So even when he talks about in Amos 2 about judgment on the day of the Lord and, rooting out the Assyrians, the Philistines, and all the Canaanites that are left in the land, even when he's talking about those ideas, I mean, he's consistently describing what he created and describes what he creates, which is the Sheol below the earth plane, the circle of the earth, the space where the birds fly above, which is also sometimes referenced as the area of heaven, but then the actual literal firmaments above. Those, he's like, even you can climb up to there. I'm going to bring you down. It's fine. Because he's already done it in the past with the Tower of Babel when men try to climb up. And of course, to my understanding, Jubilees chapter 10 talks about the Tower of Babel as well. It tries to give you some actual measurements that translated from the Greek. And for my understanding, it looks to be that they built the Tower of Babel about a mile and a half in height, which I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, West, have we ever made anything that high?
A mile and a half? No, that's awful high. But the big thing I noticed was even how much bigger the base was. And so to imagine that they built something a mile and a half, and it said that they worked on it for how long?
43 years.
43 years. A mile and a half doesn't seem outrageous for 43 years and a bunch of all these different men. I think there's another book out there that counts how many men. Nonetheless, it would make sense considering how massive of a base that they were trying to make this thing. So those measurements are interesting.
I imagine the base would have had been so big because they were planning to make it much taller than a mile and a half. And also they built a city around the tower as well. So there was a lot going on for 43 years. But you're right. Just like when they build a modern skyscraper, they dig it down into the earth to make the base to be able to support the height of the building, right? So they would have done that with the Tower of Babel as well. It didn't matter. It says the Father sent a mighty wind and toppled over the Tower of Babel anyway. So because no one can, like he says in 1 Corinthians 15, man's not supposed to live up there. That's the entire realm that he built in this creation model for the angels to live. And there's multiple levels where the angels live. It's not just like they have one little area, right? So there's multiple levels of firmament up there. And guys, this is something the rest of the Bible describes. Think about, we live in an enclosed area with water and trees and mountains and air. They do too. So the Bible describes heaven above, even the third layer where the New Jerusalem is, and heavens above that, the Most High's area, that there's even mountains up there. There's water, there's trees, there's animals. Why would he only create the creation that you see in our encapsulated area when that works so perfectly and harmoniously? It would only make sense he's going to make the same thing above, right? So it's just something that people don't talk about at church, and they definitely don't talk about it when it comes to talking about biblical cosmology, because to my knowledge, Wes, we're the only people who are even talking about the multi-layered firmament model.
There's a couple people out there, but not very many. It's a rare find, and so Yeah, it wasn't outlandish to me to come across this. You know, so many people say, no, the Bible only says 3 heavens. And I'm like, well, there's a verse that mentions the 3rd heaven, but where does it say there's only 3 heavens? I see multiple mentions of numerous heavens when it says the highest heavens and things like that. But yeah, it's just a lot of people have been taught a concept of this creation that just doesn't line up, regardless of the shape of the earth. They've been taught that heaven is some sort of spiritual wispy kind of ghost land of a ethereal place that doesn't have any physical tangibility, whereas what we're here to tell you is that God created these dome structures that he called heaven are very solid, and that they house and contain layers of worlds almost in the heavens, right? The heavens that they call them. So there's tangible physicality to these things.
Yes, there are. That's why, like, I don't know. I'm not going to derail too much. We got a lot to cover, I guess. Yeah. But ultimately, though, as we saw with the Tower of Babel, as you know, Yeshua tries to reference, like, look, if you can't even understand the earthly things, why would I explain to you the firmament related things, the heavenly things? You know what I mean? So let's talk about some earthly related things that we can test and observe. And you know what I'm saying? This is a part of the show that we hope helps the people that, you know, are very much science minded and they struggle connecting the Bible. So when they built the Tower of Babel, West, did they just suspend it in the air and then start building from there?
No.
They made a base like you talked about,
right?
Put it on the ground, and they built on top of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether they realized it or not, every single motion that they did that pushed them off the ground one step higher in building their tower, they were using the 3rd law of motion.
Okay.
Yeah, every single mo, because the 3rd law of motion requires that one thing push off another to get a reaction. Is that right?
It does. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's a slide we got here prepared. According to Newton's 3rd law of motion, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This means that for every force, there is a reaction force that is equal in size, but opposite in direction. That is to say that whenever an object pushes another object, it gets pushed back in the opposite direction equally hard. So we've got a Star Trek going warp drive?
Yeah. It's a picture from Star Trek and the warp drive where they're in space and they're creating propulsion in space. But this is the indoctrination that's sold to us because it's actually not using the 3rd law of motion. Now they will claim it is, and we're going to actually talk about that. We've got some interesting experiments to show about whether or not rockets can work in the vacuum of space. So those will be kind of interesting to get to. But yeah, you're exactly right. You've got the 3rd law of motion at play everywhere in the earth. It's important. It's what we use at all times. And it can't be escaped. There's nothing that you can do to get around it, basically. So do you want to look at one of your videos that you prepared? Or is there what's in your mind?
Okay. I'm trying to remember which one we would have had first. That's okay. So
this would the one about the different experiments in the vacuum chamber.
The vacuum. Let's do that one first. That sounds great. Check it out, guys.
1 second.
Just to set it up, this guy, a couple different guys here, a couple different videos put together. They have their own vacuum chambers. Okay. And it doesn't create a perfect vacuum necessarily, but it gets pretty dang close where they eliminate as much of the atmosphere and gas and inside of the box in the chamber.
Okay, today
and then they do a couple experiments with it. So check it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to be putting a drone in my vacuum chamber. I'm going to turn on the vacuum pump, and then I'm going to fly it as I pump out the air, and let's see if it goes down as the air is getting pumped out. Okay, drone in a vacuum chamber. 3, 2, 1. Negative 0.8 atmospheres. Look, it's full throttle. It can't even get off the ground now. I can't do anything. Okay, so you can see the propeller spin. It's essentially just vibrating on the ground right now. Oh, there it goes. See, now it has no problem. Oh, it's at the top now. See, now I got a down throttle.
Research flat Earth.
We know thrust in a vacuum is not possible. So how about we take a look at how well combustion does?
So how about something that has its own oxidizer, such as gunpowder? See, this is a mixture of charcoal, sulfur, and potassium nitrate. When heated, the potassium nitrate gives off oxygen, which the sulfur and charcoal uses to burn. So I've got a little bit sitting in there. Let's apply the laser goggles.
This is pretty
And
cool how he
let's
actually
light it off.
he shoots the laser through
First
the
in the
glass.
atmosphere, and then in the vacuum. Okay, as you can see, it produced lots of smoke and burned rather quickly. Most of the air is now gone. Let's see what happens.
Same gunpowder, same laser that just lit it.
The gunpowder did not ignite. I saw some smoke coming off of it, so I know it burned a little. Let's try again more in the center of the pile.
Won't catch fire.
And that's it. The gunpowder does not burn.
It's because you need oxygen in there.
And so I'm going to be burning some rocket candy. This is a mixture of sugar, potassium nitrate, and iron oxide. This is used in amateur rockets because the ingredients are readily available and the amount of thrust it produces is quite high. So let's light this on fire and see how it does. So this is in Earth atmosphere.
Burns pretty easily.
Even produces some thrust here. Boom.
Yep.
Shoots off to the corner.
As you can see, it burns rather rapidly, producing a little bit of thrust even. As you can see towards the end, it moved it around. So now let's try it inside of a vacuum. No ignition. That's interesting. I did see some little poofs as it tried to burn, but it was unable to sustain itself.
Wes, it's almost like fire needs atmosphere. It's almost like combustion needs atmosphere. That's crazy.
So even when it's in one solid piece, it can't chain and continue burning. So I've let a little bit more air back into the chamber. Let's see if it'll burn now. That's a no-go on burn. Wait. It's kind of smoldering. And it's out.
It's given the smolder. Smolder still wasn't enough for the
Acetone
vacuum.
peroxide in the atmosphere. In 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Yes, that's a little bit more volatile than gunpowder is.
so this should light right up in no vacuum, right? Look how fast that went.
Acetone peroxide in vacuum in 3, 2, 1.
Nothing.
Nothing.
It moves it around. Look at it. It's trying to ignite, but it won't.
It still didn't burn.
It's looked like a
I'm actually
cocaine addict's worst
disappointed.
nightmare.
It needs something to confine it in order to get it to burn and then eventually explode. And at atmospheric pressure, the atmosphere does it, but in the vacuum, there's nothing there. So far, nothing I've tried has been successful, but I was thinking about it, and everything I've tried up to this point has produced gases as a product of its combustion. So I thought, what if I tried something that didn't produce gases? How about some thermite? This is a mixture of iron oxide and aluminum.
What's that?
I like this. He's trying to do different controls and variables to test the experiment, make sure he's working all angles to really just solidify and show you guys.
Yeah, and thermite's no joke. This should light it right up, right?
You would think.
Let's see.
Well, normally this is actually magnesium powder because I didn't have any aluminum on hand. But the idea here is that the reaction will not produce gases. It might make a little bit, but primarily the product of the reaction is going to be molten iron. And molten iron, of course, it's not a gas, so it's not going to leave as quickly, so maybe it can help chain the reaction along. So let's test this out.
Thermite.
This is a thermite reaction in Earth's atmosphere. Here we go. That burned up. I can see that there's little bits of iron, some magnesium oxide floating around. A little bit of smoke, but again, that's probably just from contaminants that burned up. There we go. Let's try it in the vacuum. I did not get an ignition.
So
Wait. Not all shuttles accelerate. Oh, combustion in a vacuum. I get it.
that's hilarious.
It can.
Yeah. So
happen.
what the hopefully, I mean, if anyone's familiar with what they just looked at, like he was using a vacuum chamber with these different substances, trying to light them with a, with the pinpoint laser from outside. That means this is even a more sterilized. Let me put it like this: the experiments you just watched were given more advantage to creating fire in a vacuum than even we see from rockets in space with NASA. And we're going to go over that here in just a minute as far as how the rockets are designed, where the combustion chamber is in correlation to the oxidizer and the exhaust. It's 1,000 times harder than what this guy was just showing here. This guy was doing it the easy way, but he still couldn't get it to react. So yeah, that's because it's very difficult with that atmosphere to actually create a fire in space, right?
That's right. You have to have combustible gases in order for the combustion to remain. And so keep this in mind and consider, like, that was a fairly homemade vacuum pump chamber that guy had, right? He was obviously experienced in his scientific experiments, but nonetheless, he had a decent setup there. However, that most, homemade gas chambers, vacuum chambers like that don't even really get into the negatives when it comes to air pressure. So he was doing the best he could with what he had there and still couldn't get that to light. Now consider that the vacuum of space is said to be 10 to the times the -6 to the -17, depending on where you're at. According to these guys, the vacuum of space is that strong of a vacuum. It's measured in something called torrs. And so 10 to the -6 torr all the way to 10 to the -17 torr is what they say in the vacuum. Now that's an extremely low pressure vacuum, right? And so they're trying to tell us that they can create combustion in that, when this guy couldn't even create combustion with highly combustible materials in a homemade chamber. I think the evidence is clear.
It's crazy, guys. So here is another experiment where a guy actually sets up a large vacuum chamber and he has a small rocket inside of it, and he tries his darndest to try to actually make this thing not only light but create motion. So he's trying to prove Newton's third law of motion, okay, which is that if you're, well, let me tell you what, let me put this up on screen real quick.
Okay.
He's trying to show this idea that if you are, and this is, I guess we should probably review this real quick before I play this next video or analyze this next video. Because guys, look, everything in this world, like I talked about the Tower of Babel, everything in this world has to push off of something else in order for action to happen. There's equal and opposite action and reaction, right? Just like airplanes in the picture, they push thrust off of the air. That's how they generate their thrust, and then employ the principle of Bernoulli's lift and drag over the wings, right? So they have to have thrust to get up to a certain speed, where then the air will start to pick them up and perpetuate the flight. Same thing with submarines. They got to push off water. That's the medium that they're in. Same thing with boats. They're on top of that medium, but they're still touching the medium of water for the propeller to push off and create thrust for the boat. But Wes, what about this last one? How does that work?
Well, they say it's a vacuum without atmosphere, depending on how high you go.
Oh, then it pushes off the earth then, right?
Yeah, so that the launch originally, and then that's my question and what it would be after they have created the thrust and propulsion off of the earth, and then now they found themselves in this vacuous void with the absence of atmosphere. What then are they pushing off of to do things like turning or to turn around and come back if they're not able to push off of anything according to that law of motion that they've put forth?
So what they will tell you is that they're using Newton's third law of motion, and they'll say it doesn't matter even if there's no medium around them. There's no air, there's no water, there's no dirt. Even if there's nothing around the space shuttle or the rockets in space, that they still are using Newton's third law of motion to create thrust inside the combustion chamber, and that propels the forward part of the rocket forward or to their desired location. And we're going to look at a little clip about third law of motion, because this is what they claim, and then we're going to break down the actual experiment video. Just give me 1 second here. Open this.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to talk about real-world examples of Newton's third law of motion that states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. The skateboarder, in order to do the kickflip over the bench, needs to first have his force go downward in order to pop the board upward. The jet moves forward because the force of the engine goes backwards. Look at these ladies paddling. They paddle backwards in order to go forward. This basketball bounces upward because it first goes down and the basketball court gives a force upward which causes it to bounce. Look carefully at this jellyfish. In order to move forward, it moves its body backwards, and the water has an opposite reaction and forces the jellyfish forward. Jumping on a trampoline is the same way. The force is downward, and then you have an equal force upward, which causes you to go up. And finally, look at this balloon. When the balloon hits the earth, it has an opposite force, which causes it to change direction and go upward. So there we go, some real-world examples of the third law of motion, which states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Thanks for watching, and Moo Math uploads a new math and science video every day. Please subscribe and share.
All right, so did you guys see that?
Yeah, that's an aspect of observable science that Newton proposed that I can get behind. We can agree that that is experienced, that we can observe that to be true. Did you have that slide that it says NASA tells us that propulsion requires external pressure, and it shows a little rocket? Looks like you can't really see it on here. I'll send it right to, because there's a diagram here from, I just sent it to you again, from Glenn Research Center and NASA. It's found on the NASA website, and they show us.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, 1 second, man. I gotta do some stuff to present it real quick. Yeah, I didn't get that one earlier. I apologize.
No worries, because they show us here in their diagram. They've got all the little aspects of the diagram labeled, and they'll show you where the mass is, the pressure, the velocity, and the area of the propulsion coming from a jet nozzle with the fuel and oxidizer coming in it. We'll see in just a second.
Oh yeah, I've got some. That's why I was going to show this experiment first. Before I've got several slides to talk about this exact thing with even more. This is a great example too, because it is directly from NASA's website. Yeah. But I've got even more than this that goes even deeper into the oxidizer and the combustion chamber. So I apologize.
All I was going to point out is what he's pointing at right there is that pressure, that P stands for pressure. They're saying an outside pressure has to exist for that propulsion to take place, and it doesn't in what they say space is.
That's right. Yeah, and we're going to talk about the oxidizer as well, because it's there's a lot to it that they assume, and they don't basically think that you'll catch them, basically. So let me pull this up real quick.
I've noticed that a lot. They have no problem saying one thing and then basically saying something completely opposite about the same topic at different times, and it's as if they do it on purpose just for confusion. But that's what Babel stood for, right?
Yeah, they think they're slick. But all right, so this dude right here, he's missing a finger. He's got, I don't know what happened with previous experiments, but he's got 9 fingers now. And he actually starts doing a as you can see right here, the long box looks like a tomb. He's got this long plexiglass box that he's made, and he's tried to make it a pressurized chamber so that he can extract it make it a vacuum chamber. And he's got a little rocket set up here on the left-hand side that he tries to show people. And he really struggles. This is most of the video. This is like a 15-minute video. We're not going to go through all of it. But as you can see right here, that's the rocket in that little tube. Now I'm going to pause it real quick. I want everyone to look at this. So what you're looking at is a plexiglass tube with a wooden brace at the very end. And on that wooden brace, he's got a sensitive scale, right? He's got it set sideways so that that little black cylinder right here has the actual rocket piece that if it creates Newton's third law of motion and creates actual thrust, it's going to push on that weight scale, and you're going to see that weight scale actually show something, right? But guys, the thing that he completely ignores in this entire video is that he has this little rocket inside a metal bracket, inside a 4-pronged metal brace that is literally squeezing against the outer edges of the box. This thing is not suspended in any regard. This is literally using Newton's third law of motion already, because he's got his rocket connected to the brace and the box. So it's just going to push off of the brace and the box. But he never addresses this in this entire video. It's the most ludicrous thing. This thing's got millions of views. It's the most ludicrous thing in the world. And the moment, and he can't, but here's the bigger problem. Out of like 15 minutes, 14 minutes of it, he can't get this thing to light. And it's crazy. Oh, Bob is here from Globebusters. He says he debunked this video a year ago. He's laughing at it too. Bob, I'm sure you've probably addressed all these videos after 6 years. So you've done a great work, and we really appreciate your contribution to this topic. And so this guy right here, he's so fascinated. Okay. Let me back up. I'm getting a little too excited because it's so ridiculous. He actually goes out to the local college or whatever, and he actually he has these young kids from the local college come that deal specifically with rocketry.
Yeah.
And this is all they wanted. This is all they're good at is rockets. And so they actually have solid state fuel, rocket fuel, that he has put into this little copper cylinder on the opposite side of the black cylinder. And that's the place he's trying to light the solid state rocket fuel. He can't get it to light. 3 times it fails. He goes over and over and over again. He can't get it to light. At this point, the little igniter even pops out of the little canister, but it's still not going to light. And this is in super slow-mo. So the lighter that they're sending the igniter through, that lights for a moment, but it still can't light the actual rocket fuel in the vacuum once the vacuum chamber is turned on. So after it pops out on the 3rd try, they get this brilliant idea, and they go, you know what, we need to secure the lighting mechanism inside the area where the solid state rocket fuel is so that we can get it to light. So they create their own enclosed ignition chamber.
Yeah.
Think about this for a second, guys. Not only that, but did you guys see how easily he lifted this thing up? This thing isn't creating a perfect vacuum. This is crazy. It's not even like glued down or anything. It's wild. So he just lifted it up, and then the first time that it failed, you actually see the end of that little glass top, that plexiglass top, wobble at the very end because pressure's falling out the back of it. I don't know, but the point is, see the copper cylinder there with the wire sticking out. That's inside that little roll is where they're going to have the solid state fuel that he has in his hand, and then they're going to try to stick the lighter in there, and they're going to super glue it or put some sort of epoxy in order to get it to stay touching the actual fuel for the rocket. Because in the vacuum chamber alone, when it's open to the end, so the exhaust comes out, it can't do it. It won't work. It won't ignite and it won't light. See, it just failed again, right?
Yeah.
So he does this. He puts this on there, and he actually secures it. So then next time he tries to light it, it pops out because the pressure that's created inside of that little tube.
Right.
And then it pushes the wire back out because too much pressure builds up, and then it pops out because he created his own internal combustion chamber that's enclosed. Think about this, guys, because this is going to matter here in a minute. So then when he finally gets it to light, he finally says, okay, look, I can create some pressure. And you see the weight thing on the left-hand side, the sensor, the weight sensor.
Yeah.
It goes down to like 5. And so look, they're saying, look, we created Newton's third law. We created pressure inside. But as you saw real quick right there, the actual bracket and brace moves. The whole thing moves. Why? Because the rocket is connected to the brackets. It's literally already using third law of motion because it's touching the bracket. It's not suspended in the vacuum of nothingness of space. Yeah. This, guys, people believe this is a legit experiment. This is the most ludicrous waste of time that these guys are engaging in, and they're trying to say, oh, look, see, this is why it works because, look what we did. We made it move a little bit. So I want to go back to some of the slides that you were talking about here in a minute, just to show the folks why you have to have an enclosed combustion chamber in order to create combustion if you're in a vacuum. Otherwise, you would just have whatever the fuel is. If it's liquid, it's just going to get sucked right out the back of the rocket. right?
That's what I'm saying, because most people's argument is that they carry their own tanks of oxygen on these, or some sort of, usually it's oxygen, they say, that are on these rockets, and that they then shoot out the gases, and that that's used for the propulsion. I'm like, as soon as you shoot gas into an utter vacuum, it's going to just dissipate. It's going to shoot out in every direction.
This is from NASA's official websites. Okay, so we've taken these images from their website. They actually have an entire breakdown of how they build the rockets and everything. But guys, here is the magic show. Okay, here's what NASA does with their trickery. They give you a bunch of little pictures here, and they give you fancy words for their scientific ideas, like oxidizer. All right, so what does that mean? That means it's shooting actual fuel propellant, not the fuel, but it's shooting a spark. Think of like a spark plug. They're shooting a little bit of oxygen into the fuel so they can actually ignite it. Okay, well, that has to take place somewhere. It does take place somewhere. It takes place on the other side of this big cone that this guy's looking at. So it takes place right about here where the yellow bar is, because this is where the exhaust comes out, because in this combustion chamber is where the fire starts. Okay, so this is the fancy math they put together with the physics to talk about how much pressure needs to build to overcome the weight of the rocket. So
we
for
need
all
Brian Mullen.
Right, I was going to say, for those of you who love physics, they have the math for you. It's fine. Hey, the math works. Don't get me wrong. As far as like how much thrust would I need to actually lift something off the ground, the math is fine. Don't worry about the math. Look at the actual placement of the combustion chamber. You see it's down here in the yellow. This is both for liquid fuel and solid fuel. So for those of you who know the difference, as you can see, there is a small look at the solid state fuel. So they're saying that they've created in the openness of space, because you guys remember, beyond the little portal here that goes into the exhaust that shoots out the back of the rocket, there's nothing enclosing the combustion chamber. Otherwise, the rocket would blow up. The combustion chamber has to have an opening, which they call the exhaust port, for the pressure and the smoke that's created to go out the back of the rocket and hopefully propel it forward so it doesn't catch the rocket on fire. That means you have to have an enclosed combustion chamber to have a fire start. Otherwise, your oxygen or your fuel is going to get sucked right out the back of the exhaust. So none of their actual drawings shows an enclosed combustion chamber. None of them show any kind of valve that releases in a microsecond after the ignition happens for the combustion to happen. They're all the same. It's all an open combustion chamber directly into the exhaust. After it mixes the fuel and the oxygen to create the fire in the combustion chamber, there's nothing keeping it in there from being sucked out in the vacuum of space. It's a direct open door to the exhaust port. Guys,
they even show it, yeah.
This is not how you science. They even show, because they don't think people are going to have a question on this, for one.
Well, can we, just to be clear, this does perfectly work here in Earth's atmosphere.
Which is why I showed that experiment that they didn't really have a very well sealed vacuum chamber. Right. So but even in the normal atmosphere of space, yeah, of course it's going to work, because that's what's creating the thrust and pushing off the outer atmosphere, you showed in the first math and the first image. So yeah, that's, guys, I've been trying to talk about this since 2016, and nobody hardly ever talks about this. It's like, for people are saying, oh, well, third law of motion, if I'm in space floating around, if I move my arm, it's going to make my body move this way, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe a little bit, but you still need, if you're pushing 40 tons from a rocket, you need lots of arm thrust to push you this way. And so they say, well, we create a fire to do that in a combustion chamber at the end of the rocket. And I'm like, how? Because anything that creates fire, either liquid or solid state fuel, would get sucked out the back. There's no enclosed combustion chambers in their designs. Never heard anyone from any, FE debunked videos try to say, oh, well, here's the actual design from a technical manuscript that shows there's some kind of door that closes the combustion chamber that opens the millisecond after it ignites. None of that. No, they just ignore it completely, because it's not science, guys. This ignores Newton's third law of motion. Actually, it ignores the second law of thermodynamics, which I think you provided some slides for us earlier already, right? About the second law.
Yeah, we haven't looked at them yet, but there's definitely a couple here. So there's one, and it just talks about that 2LT. Second law of thermodynamics has some illustrations here, and it says the entropy of an isolated system consisting of two regions of space isolated from one another, each in thermodynamic equilibrium in itself, but not in equilibrium with each other, will, when the isolation that separates the two regions is broken, so that the two regions become able to exchange matter or energy, tend to increase over time, approaching a maximum value when the jointly communicating system reaches thermodynamic equilibrium. So that's just a very wordy way to say that when high pressure and low pressure are contained next to each other, and then if you have a separating region, it's a separator dividing those that is broken, the two regions are then able to exchange that gas, the pressures that we're talking about here, and then they reach an equilibrium, meaning that the high pressure is always going to move towards the low pressure.
That's right. Just like pop a balloon, all that stored high pressure in the balloon equalizes back in the air outside around it. Just like when you burp, comes out of your mouth and equalizes. The high pressure in your lungs comes out. We won't talk about the other end. So the idea is that the moment that this supposed combustion is supposed to be happening in the back of the rocket, the law of second thermodynamics would immediately squash it. Immediately. You guys, not only is there nothing to push off with Newton's third law of motion, but also supposedly Newton's second law of thermodynamics would immediately nullify anything up there trying to create powered combustion and thrust. So I don't know. Hopefully we did that justice, but
this is the same law, mind you, that dictates how a fluid can move from one position to a lower position and move to find its level. Isn't there a slide for that?
Let me see.
There it is. Here? Yeah. Second law of thermodynamics. Water flows spontaneously from higher to lower level. Water always flows on its own from higher to lower. Yep. So it's just a higher pressure goes to lower pressure. Heat goes into cold. It works the same way every time. So the same laws of motion dictate the creation, but the Father created those, not Isaac Newton.
It wasn't Isaac at all. So with that said, guys, from a scientific standpoint, something we can test, observe, and demonstrate, there are two fundamentals that are easily demonstrated in all of life that would negate all the claims that we see of vehicles and crafts being sent into space and moving around in space to come back. But yet they still put on these shows for us, Wes. Why?
To keep up the charade.
Do you want to look at the Blue Origin clip?
Yeah, let's check that out, because that was relatively recent, just the other week, and it was something very popularized, something propagated in the mainstream media, and we'd like to check it out and see what's really going on there.
All right. So, owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, went inside of his own rocket and supposedly went to low Earth orbit. Is that right?
Yeah, only about allegedly 320,000 feet up or so.
So then 320,000 feet. Oh, okay.
Feet.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's check it out.
There's a new project from the aerospace company owned by Amazon CEO and real-life boss baby Jeff Bezos. Bezos and his company Blue Origin made history last week by launching the most phallic rocket ever created.
Command engine start. 2, 1.
And two Shepherds has cleared the tower on our way to space with our first human crew. Go, Jeff. Go, Mark. Go, Wally. Go, Oliver. You are going to space. Oh my goodness, listen to the roar of the BE3 engine. We are just about to pass through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. That is when the stresses on the vehicle are at their maximum.
Max Q.
Max Q is confirmed. Beautiful burn on that BE3 engine.
Oh, wow. So you have to look out the window. Holy kid God. Oh, wow.
And there we go. Our astronauts have passed the Kármán line at about 328,000 feet, continuing their ascent. You see the two vehicles there. When the speed hits 0, you know that they've hit apogee, their maximum altitude, and you hear they're having quite an experience.
One minute warning. 1 minute warning.
Let's see if I can see the boost. Yeah. A little bit. I cannot. Oh, wow. You got to take him over to the boost. Okay, get in. Got to get in. Roll. Oh, look at this. It's dark up here. Oh, wow. 2,000 miles an hour. Everybody in?
First check. Astronaut over.
Blue Patrol, over, status perfect.
Copy, astronaut Wally.
Wally. Blue Patrol, Wally, hit Lucy.
Copy, astronaut demo.
Astronaut demo, in my street.
Copy, astronaut Bezos.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us live for our first human flight on New Shepard. So far, a nominal flight. Our booster is about to return to its landing pad. There we see engine relight. The sonic boom. And booster touchdown, welcome back, New Shepard. A beautiful rocket that provided a beautiful flight to space.
This right here is the most CGI, obvious CGI. This is crazily doctored CGI. Like, this doesn't even look real. Even, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
First step, your booster has landed.
So far, a nominal flight.
Wes, watch this. When this touches down, watch the guy on the inside of the window. It's so fake.
Here comes the crew capsule back from space. The drogues deployed. Here are the mains out, reefing and coming to full inflation.
Inflation is nominal.
Our rocket went over Mach 3, and now they're coming floating back down at just about 15 or 16 miles an hour, about to join us home. Back here in West Texas after having gone over the Kármán line, the internationally recognized line of space.
Kármán line was nominal.
And touchdown. Welcome back, New Shepard's first.
Look at this dude in the window. Look at this dude in the window.
What about him? You're saying he's just...
Look at him sitting here, and watch when you show this test footage after this. It's the same test footage. It's the dummy in the window. This is a dummy, a crash test dummy.
Oh no.
This is not a real person, guys. Look, he doesn't look. The moment, not only would that break your hip falling at that speed to the earth, but the moment they come down to the ground, he doesn't get up. He doesn't try to move. He's just laying there like he's passed out.
There's no waving.
Yeah, there's no waving. And
if
remember,
I just landed from space and I knew a camera from a helicopter was, I'd be waving. I'd be saying hi.
Remember this right here just 2 minutes ago? Look how many people are in here. There's like 6 people in there. But you can't see any of them when it touches down. So, I missed it. Hang on a second.
Uh-oh.
You can't see any of them. You just see this one dummy in the window. I'm not calling anyone a dummy. Literally, it's a crash test dummy.
Right.
Boom, broken hip. You know how fast that hit?
I did see they had a video where they talked about the development of it, and they had this intricate shock absorbing system under the seats.
Yeah. Look how still this guy is. Yeah. That's because it's literally this test footage right here.
Take that, flat earthers.
Take that, flat earthers. Look at that curvature, right?
See that curvature?
I see a test dummy.
Yeah.
This was a
Okay, it's
test
coming
flight with a
down.
mannequin from the Blue Origin
Look out
YouTube
the
channel.
windows. Check out, left window looks pretty flat.
Wait.
Right window is curving down to the right diagonally. And we're getting super close to Earth. Wait, huh?
How is there still the same curvature at ground level?
It's the same amount of curvature as it was when it was in space.
Watch this dummy shake. Boom.
We have grander space ambitions than going to the edge of it. Did this moment motivate you to push deeper into the cosmos?
Hell yes.
Lots of Dr. Evil. If you've seen that episode, The Spy Who Shagged Me, if you've seen that, then you would get some of the other funny correlations.
Oh my goodness. People are being fed this and they're eating it up. And you've put together a pretty cool graphic here. You want to explain this?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I didn't actually make this one. This is what I found, but it says the long exposure of a plane takeoff. So when you have a camera, certain cameras have a setting, and it's called a long exposure time lapse, where you're able to just like let the light bleed as action is happening in the camera lens. You got like this plane taking off here, so it just lets the light kind of bleed into the picture, and it develops one still image showing the track, or the direction, if you will, of where the lights went. And so the lights on this plane show the trail of how it took off, and then it levels out and it goes off straight. Okay. And so imagine if something was going even further up to space, how much more that arc or that direction would have gone upward. However, when we're looking at a space shuttle like Endeavour, when it lifted off and somebody took a long exposure time-lapse photo, the shuttle designed to reach orbits ranging from 185 kilometers, about 115 miles to 400 miles high. That's a lot of thousands of feet, hundreds of thousands of feet. However, when you're looking at this long exposure, the trail here of the direction of where the rocket went goes up, then it comes right back down, and you see very clearly. And if you're thinking of any time else, you're looking at a horizon line, think of a beach scene, you're looking out at that horizon, it's rising up to your eye level, and it just goes off. That horizon is just a kind of an imaginary line of where the cutoff of our vision is, and it just continues going out like a flat plane would, from there. However, if you're picturing that same scene with this rocket, are you really imagining it going up and into space? Now, what they tell us is that it's going, it has to slingshot. They got to use the Earth's gravity to then slingshot out through the atmosphere, and that the Earth's spinning at the same time this is happening. And so that's why you're seeing this, is according to their explanation. I'm here to tell you it's just going up and going straight back down. And we're going to see where a lot of those are going straight back down too here shortly.
Yeah, and because that parabolic arc that you just saw, it's just going out over the water, usually from, that launches from Florida or Texas.
Cape Canaveral a lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, and so someone has actually put together a flight path for the distance offshore per second that it takes for these rockets in their parabolic path to go. And so as you see this shoreline on the right-hand side of the picture, the water is the dark blue on the left, and these concentric circles that are getting greater and greater is for every 30 seconds after a rocket launches. That's how far away from the land it can go, which is really not that far. But here's the difference. It's still, from the human eye, it goes out of visibility of the human eye within that short time frame, within 210 seconds, which is about 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes. So that's why you see it go in a parabolic circle, and it seems to get smaller and smaller and smaller. They tell you it's going up into outer space, is literally just going outside of your visible sight. And it's not going very far, actually, off of the water. So I'm sorry, I thought I had these.
Okay, that was a good illustration.
Where did the sorry, 1 second.
You okay?
Where they went?
Is it one I sent you?
Yeah, about the oh, do you just want to look at the clip?
You okay?
For where they go?
That'd be cool. However, yeah, that was right after this
graphic
video. No, I don't see another one. So it would be the clip that's right after this. Thank you for bearing with us, everybody.
All right, here we go.
The Bermuda Triangle mystery has been solved.
If you look at it on a map, you can imagine a triangle whose tips reach Miami, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda.
This region is notorious for its mysterious phenomena. Its second name is the Devil's Triangle. All those mythical vanishings happen under unknown and unexplained circumstances.
Look at all those launch complexes.
Won't we, boy? We sure will. Now, first of all, lad, we've got to get all these medieval ideas out of your head. Clear the way for new ideas. Knowledge of man's fabulous discoveries in the centuries ahead. Now, that'll be a great advantage, boy.
Advantage indeed. If the boy goes about saying the world is round, they'll take him for a lunatic.
The world is round? Yes, yes, that's right. And it also goes around.
You mean it'll be round someday?
No, it's round now. Man will discover this in centuries to come. And he will also find that the world is merely a tiny speck in the universe.
Universe? You're only confusing the boy. Before you're through, he'll be so mixed up, he'll be wearing his shoes on his head. Man has always learned from the past. After all, you can't learn history in reverse. It's confusing enough, for heaven's sakes.
Oh, of all the idiotic guys, blow me to Bermuda!
Wow, I never noticed this in this cartoon.
Right. Looks just like the Disney logo too, doesn't it?
To Bermuda, I suppose.
And when I was a kid, I even saw this.
Oh, an island
'Cause we had the Disney Channel for like
hasn't
1
been
year.
discovered yet. Will he ever come back? Who knows? Who knows anything?
Is that what always happens? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
It looks bad to me. It's in space. Or is it?
Where is it?
Is that it?
Yep, I think that's it.
Oh no, it's going down!
So what did Yeshua say? Unless you come to me like a child.
Yeah.
Just that innocence, like it literally. He's just seeing it. Oh, it's going down.
Yeah. All
But
the
he
kids
has to-
can tell, and they're trying to tell the adults. It looks bad to me. It's in space, or is it? I love that.
It's going down. But of course, then they have to step in and tell him, no, you just don't know. Just don't trust your eyes. Is basically the message the parents will tell him after that. It's horrible.
So many rocket launches, so many parabolic arcs going up and down. Oh, here's NASA.
A solid rocket booster re-enters the atmosphere and splashes down in the Atlantic Ocean. We can see the whole final descent process here, including the re-entry burns and the parachutes deploying.
Why don't they just cause it to land back down on its base on a floating raft amongst high seas?
Well, the computer-generated
Elon.
image department weren't available for this launch.
That's right. That's right. We needed other advancements in CGI. Hey, I'll give it to the engineers who built a rocket that could splash down and not get destroyed.
Yeah.
But it's not coming back from space. Speaking of,
Exactly.
Wes, that reminds me, we need to do a show on background NASA. So all the things that NASA's involved in, that's not publicized by the media.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, like all the other things they got their fingers in. Oh, it's floating really well.
I, Laura, want to add that I lived just south of the Cape for 26 years. Before, during, and after the launch they closed down the causeway and the ocean to all boating activities. You are not allowed out in the Atlantic. They even shut down a launch once due to a boat violation. Think about why they close off the water, as the rocket or shuttle flies east over the water.
The Bermuda Triangle mystery has been solved.
Just a fun little thing there. So yeah, lots of launch complex right there at Cape Canaveral, right there at the end of on the edge where it juts out into the right of Florida, and they're launching obviously off over the water. And then they have that area that they call the Bermuda Triangle, which I noticed when you're looking at the timeline of when JPL and NASA Glenn Research Center was being developed, as well as when NASA was finally formed. It was right around the time is when a lot of those Bermuda Triangle stories were beginning to be propagated. I think one of the first ones was right around 1948, shortly after JPL was beginning to do their work. And then they had, and I noticed over and over again some of the stories that were going around with the Bermuda Triangle disappearances of planes and things. They were often military craft. You know, it just makes you wonder.
Yeah, well, the NASA used to be a part of the Navy. It's always been a part of the government military, even though for some reason people claim, no, it's independent. You're like, how in the world? Like, I can understand they think that about SpaceX, but like even before SpaceX was a thing and was popular, people were like, oh, NASA's not part of the government. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're literally regulating airspace by the government.
Go to nasa.gov to get to their website.
Right. That's right. So this is actually, we actually have our, Bob Nodell is actually in the chat tonight. He was first, according to him. He was first in the chat. But anyway, no, he was in the chat tonight, and he was telling us that he reviews a lot of this stuff as well. And actually last Sunday, he actually reviewed a pretty interesting video that I just want to show just a few seconds of.
Yeah.
And this is showing one of these launches, but it's not one that worked out well. All right. It didn't go up. I should say this. It went up, and then it came back down, and it exploded. Okay. And so let me get this clip real quick.
Was this a Blue Origin, or who did this one?
Yeah, it's a
6 minutes, 10 seconds into flight. We're down beneath 1.5 kilometers. We're preparing to restart.
All right. So this thing, hang on, let me turn off the sound. This thing it lands, but it explodes. And then in the explosion, the guy who made this video, and Bob was highlighting this video on his Glowbusters, but in the explosion, there we go. In the smoke of the explosion, you see something really, really strange that shouldn't be there. And so you see this is the rocket that's landing, and then obviously it doesn't stop itself, the booster, and it explodes. But then once they play it back in slow motion, you can see inside the flame, you're going to see the rocket reappear and this green fireball to the right side expanding out, and then suddenly within one frame it disappears completely because it's cut. It's CGI. It's not real anyway. But it happens so fast, you got to slow it down frame by frame, and suddenly you see that this is all CGI manufactured. As you can see right there to the top right.
They said it's going to contract here in 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that was it. But if you're going to get in real close, it'll show you. Look right there. See that the rocket's still at the top, and all that green smoke at the right immediately just goes away.
They're not even good at what they're doing.
No, it's completely fake. Completely.
It's so
fake.
often that liars are just not good at lying.
Yeah.
It's almost like it was designed that way. You're going to get caught, bro.
Speaking of liars, do you want to look at that Richard Branson clip?
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot to go over about it. He takes a plane up there and then launches another rocket plane off of that plane. One that went on 9 days before the Blue Origin.
Yeah, this is big in the news right now. Both Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson, they're doing their thing, trying to get into the private entrepreneurs.
Commercial.
Yeah, They're trying to give people this idea of hope that you too could take a low Earth orbit trip for thousands of dollars around the Earth, or just from one continent to the other.
And this guy has been taking people's money to sign up for a trip to space for 2 decades.
Yep. Yeah, to me, this is where Elon Musk got the idea for his truck. He's taking all those pre-orders and deposits for his truck, and just racking up millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars, to which then you take all that, just invest it, and then suddenly you've got an amazing amount of overhead, and he hasn't produced one truck yet. So
it's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But this, they're trying to actually provide some legitimacy, right? To say, oh, Richard Branson is trying to actually get people to go. All they're doing is just taking a parabolic flight. Just it's like a vomit
That's
comet.
what I'm
just going to go high and just drop down.
That's what I'm saying. Even if there was any legitimacy, reality to what Jeff Bezos was doing when they were just floating around. Now they'll pretend to you, and the idea here is that they've made it to space, and now they're in this zero gravity environment of weightlessness. When in reality, no matter what you're in, if you're in a plane, you can even practice this on a trampoline. If you hold a ball in your hand when you're jumping on the trampoline, used to do this all the time as a kid. You jump, and when you're at that perfect little altitude, you see it kind of floating in your hands. That's just because when you're falling, there's a weightless sense happening, especially inside of a craft like this. You're weightless in it as you're falling. So they're not in a zero gravitational place. They're just in a state of falling.
Did you ever double bounce people on the trampoline when you were a kid?
Loved it. Yes.
Right. So when you try to crack the egg, and they sit with their hands around their knees.
Yeah.
And then you bounce them up. And then even though they know that the bounce is coming, but if you did the double bounce right, where you push the trampoline material down before their eyes thought they were going to hit the trampoline, they would open their hands to catch themselves because they think they're falling.
Yeah.
You just trick their mind. You don't even have to double bounce them off the trampoline. Just trick their mind in like the second or third bounce that they're not going to hit the bottom of the trampoline, that they're going to go through it to the ground, and they let go immediately because the brain instantly knows when you're weightless or when you're beyond, your boundaries. So this is, guys, what we're looking at, this is all propaganda. The whole idea is to reinforce the idea that people can go to space, reinforce the idea that it's going to be privatized, commercialized. I don't know if you remember this, but back in like 2015, Wes, Domino's announced that they were going to have they were going to be the first pizza company to have Domino's on the moon. And so they were already trying to promote and talk about that. And it's all propaganda. But this idea is, like we talked about at the beginning, that this is completely antithetical to what the creator described. So all these things that you're seeing where they do actually take a plane and go into the sky, you're just going to high altitudes, just like we talked about with our Satelloon and Satellize episode. Over a certain altitude, the government calls that low Earth orbit. Even though you're not in outer space, you haven't gotten past the firmament, you're still just really, really high above the ground, higher than most commercial flights. But there is I think it's like 70,000 feet, and then suddenly that's where all the Satelloons go, all the high altitude balloons that carry satellites, and then they say that they're in orbit.
Yeah.
But they're not in an actual vacuum of space. They're just at a really high altitude. And so they're doing the same things with these type of entrepreneurs that are teasing and enticing people that you could actually go to space, right? Because if we went to the moon in 1969, we should have already had hotels on the moon by 1979, right?
Or a 24-hour live stream at least.
Right, or an actual camera up there instead of a supposed mirror on one of the things.
I can't wait to go over that because they were bouncing lights off of the moon before there was even an alleged moon landing. They were able to reflect a laser off the firmament,
So wait, are you busting Mythbusters?
Yeah, we'll do that on the moon landing episode. Check it out.
That's hilarious. Let me see here. Do you want to review the Space Mouse, or do you want to go over NASA admits they can't leave low Earth orbit first?
Yeah, we were just talking about low Earth orbit. Let's go ahead and do that one.
All right. So let's take a look, guys. This is NASA's own words, and they tell you straight up they can't go anywhere.
Oh, and also this is an homage to ODD TV, who is talking about it. I just saw a post from him today. He's been going back and forth with YouTube. Y'all pray for him. He's hoping to get that YouTube channel back, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, lots of great content that really, really helped me with these topics when I first came to these understandings. But you're going to see the first part of this video is a clip from ODD's channel. Y'all pray for him to help get that back.
Hey, give me 1 second, Wes. I don't know why it's all right. Working.
Uh-oh. Yeah, NASA admits they cannot reach beyond low Earth orbit.
Yeah.
I think this might be why, like some of these deceptions and confusions we've been talking about tonight, there was a report here a year or two ago where they were postulating that they think now that Earth's atmosphere could extend past beyond the moon, 250,000 miles away.
Man, they should have told those Apollo 9 astronauts that, right? Those Apollo astronauts?
They could have been breathing, or something.
They couldn't have been possibly moving faster.
Got it.
NASA claims that we successfully landed man on the moon 6 times between 1969 and 1972. Here we are in 2016, and NASA constantly tells us that we can't go beyond low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit is between 99 miles and 1,200 miles away. The moon is claimed to be 238,000 miles away. That's a big difference.
NASA's next spacecraft, already being built and tested across America, will do those things and more.
This is the spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit. 2.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
3.
Plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destination.
Do you get constipated in space? They look super constipated.
Yeah, they get a red face, and this is something we're gonna have to go over when we discuss the International so-called Space Station. Some of these tactics, because when they're filming here in these so-called ISS shots, they're standing in front of a green screen, and oftentimes they're hanging upside down, which would explain the awkward position of the shoulders and elbows, and the red face that they get,
and this weird crink in their pants at the same exact level, which wouldn't happen for men and women because their bodies are shaped differently.
Yeah,
but yeah, interesting.
Destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
4.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit. So we have a really robust exploration program at NASA.
5.
And unlike the previous program, we are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
And another one.
Spaceflight is a tricky business. I mean, it is definitely difficult, and I think we forget that sometimes. We see launches and landings as routine. It's a huge amount of energy and dangerous substances, and that work is very hard. I think it's incredibly exciting where SpaceX is going, where NASA is going, where all of the commercial crew efforts are going. We're really looking to maintain station as an orbiting laboratory, but we're also really pushing the boundaries in terms of where we're going forward with exploration. I think humans are naturally driven to do this, and this is really the beginning, I think, of human beings leaving low Earth orbit. I certainly plan on being around to see that.
Every time you tell me something, I figure that you're lying. Ooh, it's almost like you faking. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know you're lying, but you sound excited, and you know that I know that you're lying. Oh, girl.
Hope y'all are entertained. Gotta
Yeah.
mix it up, put some humor in there. Enjoyed it. But yeah, they said they went to the moon, which is beyond that low Earth orbit. Like Matt Prosella there, shout out Matt, ODD TV, so eloquently put it that they say low Earth orbit is between 99, about 100 miles up, all the way to 1,200 miles up, according to their measurements. And then they say that they went to the moon, which was 239, and we're on average, around 240,000 miles away, 6 times between 1969 and 1974, 75, somewhere in there. Well, now they're telling you over and over and over again. We just saw that's not even all of them. That's just a handful of clips of NASA and the previous president telling you straight up that they have not left low Earth orbit. Well, what's the deal there? I guess we're going to have to discuss more of those kind of things when we do episodes like the moon landing, the ISS, break those things down. Can't wait to do so for you guys. But hopefully you're getting the gist that rocket science, as they call it, really isn't what they say.
It's not rocket science. It's fakery, right? It's deception. And I'm not falling for it anymore. And I think there's millions of people that aren't falling for it anymore.
They're waking up.
They are. People are waking up all over the earth, not just to the fact of believing the Bible for what it says, but they're willing to actually have the conversation, even sometimes if it starts out with mockery. They're willing to have the conversation and listen, and even if they laugh the whole time. That's why I love watching Dave Weiss getting interviewed by radio morning shows and talk shows and podcasts. He does great at just plowing right through their laughter, because it's just the cognitive dissonance laughter, right? It's just them not knowing how to react because all that programming is kicking in. He does great, just going right through, staying on the course, sticking to his points, getting that information out there regardless of their behavior. So I think that's a wonderful example when you have to approach tough topics like this. We do the same even when we talk with fellow Christians and we're trying to show to them all these hundreds of mentions of the firmament and how it's used at the day of the Lord, how the Father uses it for battle, how it literally creates the enclosed area that you live in, how it encompasses the circle of the earth. And we face that as well, even amongst fellow believers, because they also have grown up in our society with all this indoctrination about space and, balls in a vacuum and all that kind of nonsense. So, but it's funny, every now and then these clips, just like we saw from the clip with the SpaceX rocket booster falling back, the CGI just disappearing out of the smoke.
Yeah.
And just like we've watched with some of the clips that we just seen with the astronauts floating upside down, being hung on wires, we also have every now and then you can catch little weird things that happen. Okay. So over the past year and a half, there's some weird things that have happened. So guys, I want you to notice the timestamps of these videos. This is from December 5th, 2019. That's the first timestamp for this SpaceX CRS-19 Falcon 9 launch on December 5th, 2019. And this is another SpaceX launch from May 30th of 2020. Okay. And so what we're looking at is they have these little cameras attached to the outside of a rocket going 17,000 miles an hour. And apparently there's no turbulent distortion. The camera's amazing, right? It's got that stabilizing technology that it can just stabilize any vibrations at that speed. But we'll get to that another time. But
not melt from the amount of decibels, furthermore.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother concept I wish we would have time to cover tonight. The amount of decibels that is created by a rocket engine, the thought that anybody could be sitting within like a football field from that, let alone right next to it, right above the engine. The amount of decibels that's created can literally melt things just from the sound.
It would shake the lens off the camera.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. So they claim that they've got rockets on the side of the cameras pointed at the boosters. I don't know why they don't point them at the stars they're going to, but instead they point them right at the boosters so you can have a little light show of like, oh, it's getting hot. Must be real fire coming out the back of it. But what's fascinating is if you look very closely on these images here, look above the little ring at the top of the booster, right before you get to the tinfoil that they have wrapped over the rest of the booster area. But right about that combustion area where I was talking about earlier, right, which would be super hot even in. By the way, the thermosphere is what they're traveling in, and supposedly that's supposed to be hot, not cold. Now, what I'm about to show you, the official narrative, they'll say, well, this is just ice. This is just ice. But guys, I don't know. something looks really strange about this ice, the way it moves. I don't know if it's actually just ice. So do you guys see that? What was that?
Yeah.
Can you see it? Let me see if I can maximize this.
There you go.
This is the one from 2019. Okay. And watch closely. Watch closely. Is it going to do it?
I saw it a second ago.
No, this is from the other rocket. Now this is the main rocket, or this is the rocket that we can actually see the open area right before you're in the combustion area. Do you guys see that moving across the top of the rocket? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. All I know is that even whether it's a rodent that crawled onto the stage that they're filming this on, or whether it's an actual piece of ice or it's just some sort of loose piece of material that's vibrating across the combustion area. First of all, if it truly was a rocket and that was being combusted, it would melt. Whatever it was would melt. At the temperature that this speed was supposed to be, it would be. You wouldn't see it dancing across like a mouse runs. You would see it melting and slowly dissipating as it melted across. Right.
Exactly. The thermosphere is normally can reach temperatures or exceed temperatures of 3,632 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right. So that's ice. Guys, you a mouse, you cook a mouse at 300 degrees. I wouldn't suggest eating one, but a mouse would be fully cooked in a black char at just 300 degrees, much less 3,000. Is that what you said, or 6,000?
Yeah, 3,000.
3,000, right? So as you can see here, it switches to the other booster. You look back at it and you're like, oh, well, that was weird. What was that? So it's like, oh, maybe that was just a one-time event, like a weird little spoof.
Okay.
Who knows what that was? But guys, 6 months later, over here, 6 months later, on another NASA SpaceX joint launch for the Falcon 9, we have another little moment here at 3 hours and 16 minutes. If you watch this booster again, something else is running across this thing. Oh, what's that? And it's going to go back. So again, it's not just running one direction. It's not like it's just ice sliding because it's melting and running one direction. It's going to go back over the hump of the rocket.
It's guys, playing peekaboo.
Right. Someone in the crowd said it's Ratatouille. Guys, check this out again. Look, they're going to show you. Oh, so I see right where my mouse is.
I see it. Yeah.
And then it's going to go back. Oh, it's going back. Guys, I don't know about you, but I swear that's a tail. That's a mouse tail. It's hilarious. And it happens again. This one actually goes into a few more seconds. It happens again. Or no, that was the other video.
Okay. But
ultimately, guys, this is 6 months apart, same camera angle, same fake launch. And I personally propose that it's literally just reused footage. And this is just a different part of the footage where the rodent was still running and trying to make up his mind where we want to go in this thing. Because it's just in a soundstage. He's looking for is anyone watching me? Is anyone seeing me? Are there predators? He's just running across this thing back and forth, trying to figure out where he wants to go.
And the way with video editing technology is these days, you can even just reuse a piece of a video to whereas they could have just cut out and clipped that rocket booster firing off and then pasted it to another video very easily.
Very, very easily. Yeah.
I can do things similar to that with my phone. So
it's too easy. Like, what Elon Musk said, it must be real because it's so fake. He goes, because we have much better CGI.
During the same broadcast, during that live stream, when they had that Tesla in space, man, we should have covered that too. That's another one. We'll just do an episode on SpaceX soon. Yeah.
Just on the Tesla.
Because that Tesla right there, they literally, the background cut out. You see the Earth, the globe in the background. It cuts out and you see the stage for a split second during their live stream. And then he comes on and says, you can tell it's real because it looks so fake. They do all these things on purpose. I'm convinced they completely know what they're doing, and they like to just be confusing and play jokes on us by rubbing it in our face. Here's the truth,
Well, hopefully we're waking some people up with these broadcasts. If it's your first time to see us, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Hopefully we're bringing to you our foundation, our goal, our heart is like, what do the scriptures say first? How are we going to form our worldview from what the Creator tells us first? Then we can better discern when the enemy is telling us lies. And so that's kind of Wes and I's heart. Hopefully we're getting that point across, but that's our passion, right? Because look, we could argue, and they have an answer for everything, right? So if you go in and you say, look, why don't you have enclosed combustion chambers connected to your exhaust ports on your rockets? How do you contain the combustion? And they'll probably come up with some pseudo answer for anything they want. They're really good at it, by the way. They have entire teams of people that can write fanciful fiction in all kinds of ways. But ultimately, I know that whole scenario of a rocket in that medium is completely contrary to what we're told and can test and observe on the Earth, as well as what our Creator, whom we can test and observe, has told us that we live in an enclosed room. We don't live on a ball circulating in a vacuum of space.
That's right.
So
you did. Yep. So episodes like this, we just got to kind of pick apart some of these deceptions and show you to give more validity to what we're trying to show you the scriptures speak of. Absolutely. So well said, Sean.
Yeah, Marlo's correct. Marlo Eugene is in the house tonight. Thanks for being here, brother.
Shalom, bro.
Shout out. He's saying that NASA doesn't need to try hard because their proponents and believers keep making excuses for them, and that I've seen that 100%.
Me too. It's unfortunate, especially for believers, those that should know the word and should be able to discern the difference between truth and what reality represents and what's not reality at all, and what's not, in line with the scriptures and what they say. So it's definitely our heart, like Sean says. Hope you guys have gotten something out of this. What else do we have to present?
We've gone through all of our prepared notes, unless there's something else you want to touch on.
No, that's all right. I guess we've zoomed through these 2 hours already. My goodness. I wish we had a teaser for next week's episode, but Sean, what do you have to say about that?
But we actually wanted to keep it a secret because we have a special guest coming on, a special featured guest coming on next episode. This guy is
a veteran.
He's a veteran. He's a legend in this type of information. Mm-hmm. So we're proud to have our brother in this truth fight, if I could put it like that. He's going to come on. He's going to bless us with his story about how he came to this information, what his professional career, as well as what he's seen and observed, and maybe even he'll share with us some of his best proofs that we don't live on a ball in space. We're going to be super excited, but we want to keep it a secret till next week. That way you make sure you tune in, hit the bell. Maybe it means something, maybe it don't. We don't know yet. Hit the bell and next to subscribe, the button, so that you don't miss next week's episode on Another Common Ground.
Yes, sir. Yeah, can't wait to hang out with that guy. Like I said, a legend veteran for sure. If you've been looking into these things for any of the past 5-6 years, then you've heard of him. Nonetheless, I also wanted to give a big shout out to our brothers over at Parabolic Vineyard. They've offered to have me be a part of their nationwide baptism event again this year. Now, we did it last year. It was the first time I had done anything like that, and it was the biggest blessing. I will never forget that day. We probably baptized about a dozen people that day in the course of a few hours. It's a beautiful experience, and we're doing it again this August 14th. Now, if you go over and check out Parabolic Vineyard, you're going to find that they have a list of different locations all around the nation right now of different people that are coordinating one for their local area, and you are able to go and get baptized with these guys. Now, so I'm doing one. It's in Mineral Wells, Texas, off the Brazos River, and we would love it if you would like to email me if you're anywhere near the area, want to make it out, somebody that wants to get baptized. If you want to get baptized, we're going to be baptizing some people in a live running water, living water, and we'll be doing so August 14th on the Brazos River, Mineral Wells. Reach out to me at westblaze, WESBLAZE, at hotmail.com. Westblaze at Hotmail if you'd like to get some more information on that. All I have is the date as of yet, but here in the next few weeks, Abba willing, we're looking to determine the levels of the river. We've had a lot of rain out here recently, so Brazos River Authority had let the dam go and kind of let the channels open so that some more river would pass. It's really high and moving fast right now, so y'all pray for me if you would, that the river goes down to a level and a speed to where we can do some baptisms in there. Otherwise, we're going to find a spot, because that's the day. Reach out to me if you'd like to be a part of it.
Awesome, brother. Yeah, that's awesome. He asked me too, but my schedule doesn't allow it. And I also live in the mountains where the water's like 45 degrees. I don't think people want to get baptized up here.
Yeah, it's understandable. Yes, sir. Yeah. One of these years we'll have to get you to make it out to one of mine, or
yeah, that'd be great.
A different place. Yes, sir.
Yeah, or maybe, I don't know. Maybe we would. No, I'll hold off on that statement. But either way, thanks for being here, guys. Any last things you want to talk about?
Much love to everybody. All my takeaway is that space as it's explained and described and defined by the people that perpetuate it, is not actually even a real place, but only a fantasy. And so the idea that any rockets are being launched from the surface of the Earth or anywhere else to go to some place called space, in which there's a total vacuous void of atmosphere, nothing to push off of, nothing to create combustion, thrust, propulsion, as we've explained and hopefully proven tonight, you guys, that doesn't exist. And so they're only just launching these rockets, coming right back down, no matter what the case. And there's no such place as space. So we hope you've enjoyed. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting till you're done.
I'm done.
I just want to tell, for everyone that's watching and that believes in the Bible, you believe in the Creator and His Son, you believe in the story of salvation, you believe in His word given to the prophets to you, you think that's truth. I do too, and I just want to hopefully draw some perspective to the idea that the story that we were all told growing up, that above the sky is the void and blackness of nothingness and utter death at every turn. Your body is not meant to be there. There's no way that you could possibly exist there, live there. And they throw this fantasy that not only is it a place of darkness and death inherently, but they try to teach you that you can overcome those challenges and that you should strive to overcome those challenges so that you can leave the place that you were intended and that you were birthed from the earth, right? So not just the descriptions of the model, of the heliocentric evolutionary model, not only are those contrary to what the Bible says, the philosophy is contrary to what the Bible says. The philosophy of the scriptures, it says that mankind was made from the dirt of the earth, and this is where you're supposed to dwell. This is where things will go well for you. This is what's good for you. And above you, in the layers of the firmament above you, is an incredible kingdom where people behave even better than you, full of light, not darkness, full of life, not nothingness, and the Creator Himself is there, and eventually He's going to bring part of that existence down to you.
His kingdom come, His will be done.
His kingdom come. Completely contrary to the idea that you should want to leave here and go to nothingness. The descriptions of hell below the earth is what they've made space above the earth in their model. It's utterly inverted. It's utterly backwards. So this is what the occult does. So I want to encourage you to believe the Bible, because if you think that this life is good, living on this beautiful place, and mountains and rivers and animals and ecosystems and waterfalls and rainbows, it's beautiful here. The Creator promises you it's only going to get better, because He's going to bring a better land above down to you. So I encourage you to believe in the Creator. I encourage you to accept Yeshua into your life, walk in His ways, which are the commandments, turn from the wickedness, turn from the lies. Your life will be better. Your future will be better. So I encourage everybody. Thanks for watching.
Very well said, brother. We hope everybody enjoyed. Check out the Patreon, PayPal, like, share, subscribe, follow. If you would, if you like being able to share these kind of things with your family, we tailor these towards that. And otherwise, we will see you guys next week with our special guest. We hope to see you then. Shalom to everybody from under the 7 domes. Bless God, He may bless you.
Yeah.
Wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake
We used to play pretend, Wake up. We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away.
Wake up.
We used to play pretend,
Wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
Wake up, you need to wake up, you need to
We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away. Saying,
Wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake.
We used to play pretend,
Wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
Wake up, you need to wake up.
Yeah.
Land of the thieves, home of the slaves. 19 billion, that's 50 million a day. That's what NASA gets, just to lie to the human race. Pretending to go to space, but they fake it right to our face. And they say they moonwalk, but that just wasn't the case. Trying to tell us there's a rover on Mars, but it's a fake. Ay, CGI satellites, but I don't see a trace. People everywhere waking up, we're shaking up the place. So if you let me, I can shake up the thoughts that you tend to think of. Cause I fell in love with truth and I don't ever wanna break up. Let's take a look what's underneath the Hollywood makeup. So much that gets put in our face is straight made up. This place they call a planet that they lied about the shape of. They can play pretend, but me, I'm calling for
wake up.
Freemasons and Zionists, the ones that put the eye on it. Try to say they scientists, but I can't say I'm buying it. Do you know what science is and how that they decided it? They just keep rewriting it to keep us from enlightenment, knowing that they lying it. Stay promoting violence, knowing that we're gullible products of our environment. No, I can't be silent, and nor will I be compliant. Not reliant on the tyrants to fall if we're not defiant. I can't seem to find the curvature. Total social overture. The sun is small and local to the earth as it encircles her. Nothing like the lies of elite sun worshippers, but up against the Bible, I don't even need interpreters. Earth is flat and motionless. Open up a scope and see a boat across the ocean mist. Chemtrails clogging up what used to be an openness, and fluoridated water coming concentrated doses. I'm conscious of the brokenness. People all over the place deceived, I hate to see. Space is not a place you see, it's fake, it's only make-believe. Constellations prove that the earth doesn't move, but the liars on wires wanna take away the truth. I'm screaming,
wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake, need to wake up.
We used to play pretend,
Wake up.
We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away.
Wake up.
We used to play pretend,
Wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake, need to wake up.
Wherefore he saith, awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead. Christ shall give thee light. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise.
Have you ever wondered why, when you looked up in the sky, exactly how the sun and moon ended up the same size? It's 90 million miles and 250,000. Y'all can beat my poker face, cause that defies some odds. Yeah, I'll tell you this is gambling with every dose of Ambien. You're managing to transfer in, so let me be your wake-up call. Let me be your wake-up call. You ever been to space at all? Who's above us? One that loves us or aliens that hate us all? Man, I used to catch some Z's on this flat plane. Then the alarm clock rang and all that changed. Like, motionless. Please tell me you see how flat this ocean is. The devil lied to us, lied to you, lied to me. Tried to hide my creator, made me play some hide and seek. But he speaks, and if I seek him that he won't hide from me. If I knock that he will open it and show me what I need. That greed is the enemy. Forked tongue of the serpent as he dangles from the trees and trying to keep us all far, far away from obedience. Trying to take our will and our next of kins. Had us living for the sun, not the S-O-N. So good morning, beautiful. Time to rise and shine. Time to breathe this morning air. Open those sleepy eyes. Yeah, good morning, wonderful. Time to shake them dreams. Feel a savior's love for you. This world ain't what you think, man. Good morning, beautiful. Time to rise and shine. Time to breathe this morning air. Open those sleepy eyes. Yeah, good morning, wonderful. Time to shake them dreams. Feel the savior's love for you. This world ain't what you think. This world ain't what you think. It's time to
wake up. You need to wake up. You need to wake up. You need to wake, need to wake up.
Used to play pretend.
Wake up.
We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away.
Wake up.
We used to play pretend.
Wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
wake up. You need to wake up. You need to wake.
We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away. Saying,
wake up. You need to wake up. You need to wake.
We used to play pretend.
Wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
wake up. You need to wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up.